I made a game of Solitaire using a table in HTML, 3 separate tables, and it uses drag and drop. So this first part is just the styling of the tables. I'm probably not going to go over that. I'm not that great with CSS, but I just kind of like hacked it into making it look the way I wanted it to look. This is the table that is up here, and I just looked up these character codes for hearts, diamonds, clubs, spades, and styled them with some colors. This is the table that is for like the dealing of the cards, like the face down deck and the current card that you can drag somewhere. So like just these two cells here. Then this is like the big green area where it's like the main playing field. And the reason it's so long is because if you had like a king here, and you had like king, queen, jack, 10, all the way up to ace, it would fit in this length here. This is like the instantiation of the cards array, and so you have like diamonds, hearts, spades, clubs. We're setting like the color of the card, black or red, and the number of the card, which is just the position in the loop, makes it easier to compare cards. But I have the actual what it is, you know. Ace is 0, 2 is 1, up to 13 is king. Setting this to know whether the card is face up or face down. And these two loops will run a total of 52 iterations, and Z is being incremented each time, so it's going from 0 to 51. This is the shuffling of the cards. I technically don't need this outer loop that's running for 10, but it's like shuffling it 10 times. Just make sure it's shuffled, and so you get like a random index. You set a variable equal to that card at that random index. Set that to undefined. Then in the loop, the current position, you set that random index to that. Then you undefine that, and then set the position to the random index. This is just getting the elements that we're trying to work with and creating a new array of the cards that are actually on the green area here. I'm doing this part because I want a reference to which number, like this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. Like down the rows. I need this reference for later in the code. So setting these two variables here, I'm going to skip to where they're actually used. Down here, it's just keeping track of rows and columns in this area here. And let's see, this is like the main loop we're running 7 times, and it's for each of the rows. So if we're on the row that we're wanting to be on, and if because this is ordered like 1 card here, 2 here, 3 cards here, it's virtually the same for rows and columns. I'm probably not doing a good job of explaining that, but so we want to do stuff if this loop is the same number as the row and the column, and like up to that number for the columns. So like in the first time you go through it, J is 0, so the 0 row is here. If the column is less than or equal to 0, which is here, and if 0 is less than 0, so we don't do this part, then we do this, which is popping a card off the deck, saying it's flipped up, this position in the field is equal to the card. Then in order for the drag and drop to work initially, we are setting draggable true in this event listener where we have this data, and it's this.I, which is like what card in this array. Later on, you need that from here. Then if so this isn't actually even a position of the card, it's like the 0 row plus 1 if the column is 1 ahead of it. So I'll uncomment this line here. It's these rows here are the only place that you can drag to in the beginning. So they're it's like a place that you can drag to, setting this here, and this part just makes it so that like you can drag to it. Then when you do actually drop something here, you're getting from this information is put into this variable, and if you're dragging it from here, then this will tell you if you're dragging it from here, because there's a certain set of circumstances if you're dragging it from here rather than dragging it from somewhere else. And then this gets the the last card, like if you're dragging something to here, it's getting this card. So it's like this white square -7, which just happens to be the 7 of diamonds. If you were here, it would be the ace of diamonds. And if you are dragging it from the hand, I call this the hand, I guess. Try and get something where you can actually do that. Maybe. Yeah. So if you are dragging it from the hand, which I'm going to skip to where that's actually set later, or I'll show you it later. And it's being set to -1 in case it's out of bounds of the array. Like if it's less than 0, we don't want to have that be out of bounds. So if it is not -1, and the card that you're dragging is red, and the previous card in the position is black, or the card that you're dragging is black and the previous card in the position is red. So hand card dot number. So ace is 0, 0, and 2 is 1. So if the ace plus 1 equals the 2, which is 1, then we unset what was here and set that set the actual elements in our HTML to nothing, and then set the position where you're dragging it to nothing, and then set it to I mean, I don't really need this here. I just copied it from the other one. I could just take this out and put, I don't know, unset it somewhere else, but and then it calls the update, which is virtually the same as this main loop, only it has logic for the entire state of the field, which I'll get to eventually. Okay, now we're to this else. So if it's not being dragged from the hand, which means it's being dragged from somewhere down here, like from here to here. Virtually the same logic, only you're getting the from I, which is this here, which is that I of, it's just a way of keeping track of which card you're actually dragging there. So virtually the same logic, and unsetting where that card is and resetting it to where you're dragging it to. And then this is the initial updating of the field. Like if I did not have this stuff here, I'm going to uncomment that. Like if, I don't know, I'll just change something like, change the hearts to blue for some reason. So it's just laying out these cards with this. Because this is the array of all of these green squares down here. Yeah, and if it's face down, then you have the face down card, and they get light blue, and all the different suit characters, and then the individual square gets what card it is plus what suit it is. And if there's nothing there, then set it equal to an empty string. And this is the start of the main update function, which is very long. I actually had some useless code in here where I don't know, I was just doing the same thing twice and it didn't make any sense, so I removed that. And before anything is done, all of the dragging event listeners are removed. I honestly couldn't find a better way of doing it than like attaching the event listener as an object of the element itself. And I don't know why it works, and I tried to do other things, but that's what I ended up doing. And setting all their draggables to false so that we can make sure that none of these are going to be left over from a previous move. Like if I were to move this here and then not do any of this, this square might still be, there might be some action involved with it. And getting the next column, well yeah, looping through all of these green squares and right, so this is the part that when you move a card up here, or when you move a card anywhere, this card here will now be the last card in the row. So it's checking to see is a face down card the last card in the row, and if so, then flip it up. Like, this is what I was talking about. Like, if the column is 0, and then I have the same thing right here, I don't know what I was thinking, but it works for now. Trying to get the condition to somewhere. Okay. And we're setting this color. So this means that it is possible to drag a king here because it's the first column and there's nothing here. If I try to drag like any other card other than a king here, it will not work. So we're making it so you can drag there, and right, okay. So now there's 3 variables for what we're testing for. Like, where is it from? If you're dragging it from here, one of these positions, are you dragging it from here? Or is it a stack of cards that you're dragging? So that's a little bit more difficult to find a situation in which I could, okay, maybe this will work. Hoping for a red queen so I can show. Okay. Now there's 2 cards on top of each other, and if you drag the first card, both of them, I call that a stack of cards, are moved here. So if it is a stack, then and this checks to see if it's a king. It's the 12th index of the array, making it the 13th card, which is a king. And then this loop makes sure it runs for 13 in case you have like all the way up to ace that you're dragging to this position. And it's the same thing, only you're doing it for every possibility, and if you're doing it 13 times, these are all undefined, and the way the update function is set up, if it's undefined, it won't do anything. Like, either it will or will not do something because it's undefined. And this is like one of the last things I wrote, so I was just like, maybe this will work if I just put this 13 loop here and multiply it by 7, because if you 0 times 7 is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8, 9, 10, 11, you know, it's like each one in the column, the next column down. I guess I'm calling the, well, it makes sense that I would call the update again, because it's not going to recurse into this because it's not, the drop only happens once. So we want to have like the cards revealed, and like after you drag it, this card has to be revealed. Okay, and then if it's not a stack of cards and it is from the hand, it will only update if it's a king. And then the hand shift function, it makes it so that like when you drag something to that Well, I don't think there are any kings in here for me to test it. But it makes it so that, like, when you... I guess I can test it with something else. Like, when I drag this up here, it's going to show the last card that I clicked. Right? That's what I can go to that function real quick. Well, I guess to know how this works, you have to know that you're popping the cards off the deck into this variable, and if you don't drag it anywhere, then it unshifts it to the front of the array, and so the hand shift shifts it back, or wait, well, when you drag it to a position, it's cleared from that variable, and there's nothing there. So you shift the last one off the front, because if you click it, when you click the deck, it's unshifting the card to the front of the array. Like if you just sit here and click this over and over, it's unshifting the one that was popped off and popping a new one off the end and setting up all the stuff that needs to happen. Like without that, you would have to just keep clicking the deck and you would not be able to see the last card that was there before you put this card on top of it. Okay, and then so if it's not a stack and it's not being taken from the hand, then it has to be taken from somewhere on the field. And remembering that, oh wait, no, okay, never mind, that was a different one, but if it's same thing. Not from the stack, not from the hand, it has to be from the field. If the number equals 12, forgot that part, I was debugging this earlier today. It's just saying like you're taking a king from here and putting it up here, which it doesn't work because I just changed this. But anyway, it's the same thing, and then updating the board, and then the way that I am, this next part is a little bit wonky in the way that it works. So the RZ, right, these two arrays here, I don't know what I was thinking. There's probably a better way of doing this. So it takes the current row, and this is the row that you're currently on, and then at the end of this loop, this is actually the previous row that you were on, because it's setting it before and after the loop, two different variables. So if the row that you're on is undefined and the row that you were last on is not equal to undefined, that would mean the row that you're on would be here is equal to undefined. But the last row is not equal to undefined. Because it's resetting that row, like for each column that it goes through, it's a separate index of that array. Or, right, or, because like, I don't know. I'm just gonna like, oh, that's a club. Maybe that doesn't do what I think it does. I'm gonna change this. Well, I don't know, because it works. I'm thinking it should be like, this is the, this is the 6 of spades, but then it's the same 6 of spades here. Maybe I should be echoing here. I don't know. There we go, that makes more sense. Right, the first time you run through the loop, this isn't even set. And then the second time, it's set to this 6 of spades, and then the next time, the previous row is set to nothing. Well, anyway, it's just a way of finding where the where you can possibly move a card, right? Because you can't move one right here or anywhere else but underneath a card. And it's a lot of the same code as when you're moving a king, only it's comparing whether the cards match up based on their red or black, and it's comparing if the card that you're moving on top of another card is lower than it. If you're it only checks the first one if you're moving a stack, because the other conditions make it so that you can't, it's always going to be a stack of cards that are descending. Like I said, a lot of the same stuff as that very first one when you're when it's not even the update function, but it's a part of this instantiating the very first time you can move a card. A lot of that same stuff, only it's possible to move a stack in addition to a card from the hand or a card from the field. And okay, so there's the stack, there's the hand, and then if you're moving it just from a place on the field. And the hand shifts and updates because within the same update function we have, you know, the same thing that was there previously. I probably could have written the update function so that I didn't need all that stuff up here where it's basically a repetition of it. I started out just with this and then wrote the update function based on this. Because all of this is inside the update function, it will update the actual HTML elements based on what's in this field cards array. And the indexes are based on the indexes of these individual HTML elements, so they always match up. And this is where we're re-adding the event listeners that we removed. All of these are removed, so we have to add them back. And it's the same conditions, or it's like if it's the, let's see. If there's an empty space, which is what this is, here I'm gonna comment that wherever that. Right, so this is like detecting, is it the last card in the row, which means that it has a draggable event attached to it, and the only variable is like that's attached to that drag is which one is it out of that array. And then we have this one. Is it like the beginning of a stack, or I think it should work for any number of I'm gonna have to actually play the game and figure out, see if I can. Okay, so these two are draggable. Like you could drag this to another red 6, or you could drag this to a black 7. And then all these three become draggable. That's what these conditions mean. If the column below it has something in it, and it's equal to it's face up, and that you're setting stack equal to 1, indicating that it is a stack of cards. And this is a little bit of the user, the hand, and the deck. In the beginning, we just pop a card off the beginning of the cards array. Because in the beginning, if I were to, we're at 23 cards, or 23, because they were popped off here or here into the field. So we're popping off another card. Yeah, but this time its location is a little bit different, and we're setting this the hand equal to 1, meaning that it's true. And then the hand shift function, then if you click on this thing here, all that logic with unshift the card, pop another one off, make it visible to the user and set it, make sure that you know it is a hand card. This is the beginning of this table up here, the logic for that. Like when you drag an ace up there, what's supposed to happen? And I named it for table, I don't know why. And there's only 4 of them. So, and they're arranged hearts, diamonds, clubs, spades. Checking to see if it's the same suit. And I'm attaching the number 0 to each one of these, indicating that if the number is equal to the number of aces 0, and then these start off at 0, and then each time you drag a card, it's incremented. So like now that there's an ace here, it's 1, and you can drag a 2 of hearts up there if I could find one. And it's also performing all those things that when you drag a card from the hand to somewhere else on the board. And making sure that this is in Ace of Hearts and it looks like that up here. And if it's not a hand card, if you're dragging an ace from down here, it's the same thing, just different variables. And that is the end. I think that when other people are programming Solitaire, they are shuffling the cards differently or using some sort of pattern in the way that these face-down cards are laid out so that it's easier to actually win the game. Because it's not always possible to win Solitaire if you're just like using a completely shuffled deck with no patterns or anything in it. I will post this code in the description of the video.